Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys 1/6 scale Predator figure unboxing and mega review. Today, we're taking a look at all three Super Predators from the 2010 movie Predators. Now, if you're heading down to the description, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button, so you're notified as soon as brand new Predator content goes live. So for those keeping track, it's Berserker, Tracker, and Falconer all in the same review. I could have done them separately, but where's the fun in that? I love a bit of a challenge, and filming 3 Predator reviews in one, essentially, yeah, I think we've got this. As for the box art, I'm going to get progressively quicker as we move on to each subsequent Pred, just because their boxes are largely the same, just with different graphics. Predator's logo in the middle, metallic red foil, so it pops against the gunmetal/black background. Then these translucent red windows, almost in the shape of like the little Predator symbols on their gauntlets when they activate their self-destruct. If that's what they were going for, I'm so here for it. Then we've got some artwork of the Berserker Predator underneath those translucent red panels. This video is brought to you by JustinsCollection.shop, the home of the figure first aid kit, as well as other accessories to help your collection be the best it can be. The first aid kit contains multiple tools to help you with maintenance, styling rooted hair, and much more. We also sell crotch grabbers, soft rubber tips to prevent damage, and they're compatible with most modern Hot Toys base molds. Acrylic risers come in multi-packs. They're optically clear, thick and sturdy, and stackable. Check out the link to JustinsCollection.shop in the description. Besides the red, there's not much going on with this box. It's simple, yet effective. It's quite classy almost. We've got that swirly gunmetal metallic Damascus steel looking print that wraps around from the front to the side all the way to the back of the box. Then in the middle, Berserker Pred's biomask, an image of Berserker Pred in the top dome, one of his glyphs below Predator or Prey, which was all over the marketing for this movie. His name, and at the bottom, warnings and legal information. Oh, that looks beastly. I don't know if that's the figure itself. I'm so hoping it is. I've heard that Berserker Pred's head is a bit underscaled, but then again, in the movie, I think it was overscaled, so maybe Hot Toys are correcting for that. Underneath the top flap, held in place with Velcro, an open window showcasing the figure inside. There's a read-up, feel free to pause to read, and some figure photography on the inside of that flap. Oh, that's so sick. The gauntlet with the blade sticking out of it, like I said, understated. They didn't go crazy with the graphics. They kept it relatively plain, but that has worked here. His name and the cast and crew responsible for making this piece at the bottom. I wish they would go back to doing that because it highlights the incredible artists working on these pieces. Oh, the moment has finally arrived. Berserker Predator, after all these years, here he is. First in-hand impressions. So far, so good. I am loving what I'm seeing. He's big, he's beefy, there's pops of red, but let's move on to Falconer, then we can get Tracker out here. Let's do a speed run for this Falconer unboxing segment because the artwork is almost identical to Berserker's. Red translucent windows, this is done in the same shape as Berserker's as well. An image of Falconer underneath the translucent plastic. Not much on the side, but around the back, Falconer's biomask, and another shot of Falconer wearing that biomask in the top dome. Oh, there he is. I'm not sure which one of these Preds is going to be my favorite. Likely Berserker, of course. He's everyone's favorite, but Falconer is in for a chance because I've always loved this biomask design. Opening up the top flap, open window, read up on the inside, as well as a shot of the piece itself. Instead of going for the gauntlet, we've got the Falconer's falcon, essentially, his drone. So maybe they're highlighting the gadgets specific to each Predator on the back of the boxes. We will find out when we take a look at Trackers in just a minute. His name below that, different glyph versus Berserker. Then the cast and crew, the artists responsible for making this piece. Speaking of the drone, there he is, little buddy. He's just hanging out on the top of the clam tray. First in-hand impressions for Falconer. The biomask is interesting. He's quite sizable and weighty. I'm noticing some reuse, specifically for the feet, but we'll touch on that later. No red markings on the body, so that gives him a completely different vibe versus Berserker. Okay, 2 down, 1 to go. Let's move on to Tracker. Did I save the best for last? I don't know, not intentionally. This box is a lot larger than the other 2 Preds boxes. The artwork is similar, translucent red windows, then a shot of Tracker behind them, Predator's logo straight through the middle. If I had to guess, this being Tracker, they needed to supersize the box to accommodate the Predator Hound. I think that's what happened. Unfortunately, my Tracker's box did suffer some damage in transit. It's not the end of the world. It's a 15-year-old Predator. I'm not here for the box, just the piece inside. Around the back, Predator or Prey, red glyph, biomask with a shot of Tracker in it, his name at the bottom, then some warnings and legal information below everything else. There's something about Tracker, the tusks on his biomask, super unique. We can see them as clear as day on this picture of him on this opening flap. Then an open window. Yep, as I guessed, the Predator dog is the reason for the supersized box. Underneath the flap, picture of the dog and the Predator, plus that read-up. Blade on the back of Berserker's box, then drone for Falconer, now the dog for Tracker. I'm not looking forward to installing all of these spikies on the Predator dog because, spoiler alert, you do need to install them yourself. Yeah, I see them. All of these spikes. So that is something that's going to need to happen. First impressions for Tracker. I need to install his tusks on the biomask. There's a lot of green. There's a lot of patina on his armor, and that I was not expecting. What we're going to do now is get all of Berserker's, Falconer's, and Tracker's accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything they come with. You know what? Pleasantly surprised by this. All of Berserker's stuff on the left, Falconer in the middle, Tracker on the right. I thought that by default, because Berserker is sort of the leader of the Super Preds in the movie, that he would come with the most amount of stuff. That is not the case. Falconer and Tracker, they are not light on when it comes to accessories, especially when you take into account that Predator Hound. Plenty of value across all 3 pieces. Starting off with Berserker's display base first. 2010 Predator means 2010 style base. Oval stand, Predator's up top, his name on the nameplate of course, and then a height adjustable wide scoop crotch grabber. Even though this piece released 15 years ago, the detail on this biomask is surprisingly good. The mottled metal texture, the copper-coloured metallic finish, like it's properly shiny, and we've got the rounded glossy lenses done in black contrasting against the rest of the helmet, plus the bone/jaw at the bottom with the spiky teeth up top. And the teeth are a lighter colour versus the jaw, there's a heavy wash on there, there's speckling, it looks brilliant. The electronics don't work on mine, which is annoying, but worst case scenario, I could always paint those red dots on the targeting system if I wanted that pop of red on the front of the biomask. Even though Berserker is the only one of the 3 to come with a removable biomask, I'm considering displaying him with it. But if I did opt to remove it, I've got the choice of 2 sets of mandibles, Screaming and Normal. There's an asymmetrical sculpt going on where the top teeth, they're pointed in more on the right side versus the left. But once again, for an older piece, the shading, the little quills painted in, they didn't paint the quills on the prototype for Jungle Hunter 2.0, but back in 2010, they were painting quills. Not really an accessory, more so just part of his look, I guess, the plasma caster. You need to install it, it comes packaged separately in the box, and the detail is crispy as. Then the paint applications look just as good as the biomask. You can rotate the front piece round, it'll swivel where it plugs in. There's a bit of up and down, but not much. Oh, gruesome as. The trophy, the spinal column with the gross fleshy bits at the bottom. There's even some leftover, skin particles. It's shiny, it's wet looking, it's glossy, there's darker shading. in my collection, Berserker Predator will be holding this. 3 different lengths for his gauntlet blades, and they're die-cast. Real die-cast metal, they've got this brushed look to them, serrated edges, they're a little bit prickly, so just be careful when you're installing them into his gauntlet. Would it have been cool to get some rust effects and maybe even some blood on them? Yes, but you know what? I'll take the win. At least they're made of metal. And we get the same array of blades for all 3 Preds, so now that they're out of the way, we don't need to look at them again for all 3 Preds. When it comes to hands, splayed out finger open palm one, and look at those nails. This is what I expect for Jungle Hunter 2.0. Actual spiky nails that extend past the tips of the fingers. If you could do it in 2010, you can do it in 2026. For the left side, a relaxed open palm hand. And 2 closed fists, already installed on him right out of the box. The craggly skin texture, there's a lighter coloured wash in that sculpted detail, and that helps it pop. These gestures don't make a ton of sense when you think about it, because normally for Preds, they've got the long fingernails, right? So if they were making proper fists, then they would be digging those fingernails into their palms. So I would have liked to have seen the fingers hanging down, sitting on this part of the hand, on the base of the palm, because that's what they normally do with their Predator hands. Let's step on the gas a bit. Display base, oval, Predators, Falconer for the nameplate, height adjustable crotch grabber. A Predator skull as a trophy? Come on. And the detail, the fidelity of the fine sculpt work with the washes, it looks like it's made of real bone. It's soft PVC plastic, so even these mandibles up front, they're nice and sturdy. If you put pressure on it while you're popping it on his base or something, you're not going to break it. I've always wondered what a Predator skull would look like, and now seeing all of the holes where the dreads connect to, and where the quills come out of, it's interesting that they're not part of the Predator's flesh, they actually go all the way through and connect to the skull. If you've got classic Predator, it's a different skull versus the one that came with him. I much prefer the paint applications on Falconer Predator's skull versus this one. Well, it's not his skull, it's the one he comes with, you know what I mean. The drone is painted in gunmetal first, then there's some very subtle silver dry brushing over the top. The blade is ABS, so don't put too much pressure on this when you're plugging this into the support rod and then into his shoulder. You do that with the port at the bottom. There's some pops of red on the underside and around the front. So yeah, the support rod, it's translucent plastic. It plugs into the port where the plasma caster would normally be on Falconer Predator. It's quite ugly. I wish they figured out a better way of attaching this to him, because seeing this zigzag clear bit of plastic, it ruins the illusion of the drone just hovering above the shoulder of the Pred. But if you don't care for the drone look, instead of going with the clear rod, they give you this cap cover piece packaged with the instructions. There's detail on it, so once you install it, it should nicely cover up that port. Getting it out, though, if you change your mind and want to use the drone, is going to be very challenging. I'm here for a bit of asymmetry, I always am. Fingers splayed out, open palm hand, just Predator flesh with the reptilian skin, the darker green shading on the right, and the long fingernails. Then on the left side, an armored hand. The sculpt work is all there, I just would have liked to have seen some more dry brushing over the top to highlight it. And 2 closed fists, sculpted in the same way as Berserker's, meaning they don't make a ton of sense. Tracker's base, oval stand once again, red Predator's logo, his name up front, and then a height adjustable crotch grabber. Holy shit! The Predator Hound. I mean, I say holy shit because it looks so good. Like, it does. The sculpt work, the paint applications, the horns with the darker shading, the orange shading, the green for certain sections, all of the flesh, the little spikies, the bumpy sections around the back. There's even sculpted and painted detail on the underside of the feet. But installing all of these spikes was a pain in the ass. If you've got this, you know what I'm talking about. They don't sit properly flush for certain ones. I've heated this dog up and tried to push them in as far as they'll go, but they're slippery and there's nothing to grab onto, so you're just sliding down them as you're trying to install them. I never want to do that again. Even though they're not fully seated, I'm going to be leaving my Predator Hound like this. And yes, I will be displaying it because how could I not? Even inside the mouth, they've gone to town with sculpt and paint. There's this little rock in the box, and the sculpt and paint looks great here too. It sits underneath the hound's foot just to make him look slightly more dynamic, so he's not just standing flat on the ground. But he can do it. He can stand flat on the ground. His foot is at a bit of an angle, but nothing crazy if you don't want to use that rock. His plasma caster, just like Berserker's, is packaged separately. However, we get more range of motion with it. It can pivot up and down further than Berserker's could. It's also not done in that copper color. It's gunmetal first, with some green dry brushing over the top. To go along with the Predator Hound, we get 2 gripping hands and a leash for it. There's real metal hardware down the bottom, then some loops to wrap around the horns at the front. This was made of pleather though. Emphasis on was. I grabbed what was left of it because it was literally flaking and deteriorating in my hands after I opened the box. I measured the strap, the width and the length. I then cut a piece of genuine sheep leather. The scale of the grain I found was pretty much perfect for 1/6. Then I attached it through the hands to these metal loops, connected everything up, and now I've got a genuine leather leash for my Predator Hound. For the rest of the hands, different armor plating from left to right, still that dry brushing of green, but now some added silver in the mix. 2 closed fists already installed on him right out of the box. Relaxed open palm hand for the left, splayed out finger open palm hand for the right. There's some added detail with the Predator flesh showing through this cutout for the gloves on the inside of the palms. What we're going to do now is get the Predators themselves out here. Standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that, except I have installed the plasma casters for the Preds that have them, and popped on Berserker Predator's biomask, with them standing in front of me. This is quite the set. The figures themselves aren't flawless, but once you assemble the team, they become greater than the sum of their parts. We've got plenty to discuss off the turntable, how things work and the sculpt work for the armor and the paint applications, but just take them in for a second. As a whole, top to bottom, standing there side by side. This set wasn't even that expensive to assemble because of pleather issues. I managed to solve them. I think you can solve them. It's not very difficult to do that. So that means if you like what you're seeing, you can assemble this team on the cheap, on eBay or Facebook Marketplace or something, fix up the pleather issues, and have a complete set of Super Predators in your collection without breaking the bank. And who doesn't love that? Because individually, they're badass, but together, so much cooler. If I had to pick my favorite, could I even do it? Yeah, I've got a favorite, and I think you all know which one it is. Dude, what a beast of a piece, up close and personal, kicking things off with Berserker Predator's biomask. We've already discussed the paint and the sculpt and the detail in the accessory segment, so now we can just focus on how it connects to the head sculpt and what it looks like on the body. In the movie, go and check some reference pics, pull up the film on Disney Plus if you like. The Super Predators had enormous heads, but in 1/6 scale, Hot Toys took it upon themselves to shrink down the size of their head sculpts, and I think that was the right call. Yes, in terms of accuracy, this is a more idealized look for them, but now the heads are properly in scale with the bodies, and I like that look. Then, the way it attaches to the head sculpt is, or it was, I should say, all new. In 2010, they were used to doing biomasks like this, that connect up using mandibles or faux mandibles on the inside of them. But with Berserker Predator, they changed up the formula. This biomask simply slides onto the head sculpt and holds in place with friction. Now we've got a full head sculpt underneath it. So you don't need to go rifling through an accessory tub or try to find the box in storage just to hunt down some mandibles. You can pop the biomask on and off, no problem. He's fully displayable either with or without it. No switch out pieces required. It's so intuitive. It's so much easier than having to remove the mandibles first. You just pop the biomask on and call it a day. There's even some foam padding around the base part of it to protect the paint applications on the mandibles. Speaking of them, there's a visible seam. It's more visible on this side than the other on my copy because the paint applications haven't gone into that crevice. I could fix that myself, make it look more like the right side, but it's not enough to throw this piece off for me, and I think I'm going to display him with the biomask on in my collection anyway. The quills, the little sticky outy quills, they're made of soft plastic so you're not going to break them, but they're all here. Then the red up front, that looks like a gross brain. Like, it's such a nasty head sculpt. It's so visceral. The eyes, the red around the outside and the white pupils, they're piercing. The inside of the mouth, you'll see more of it when we switch out the mandibles, which we'll do. And they've continued the paint applications for those quills onto these side bits of the mandibles, like we discussed with the switch out set in the accessory segment. Oh, the red gradient dreads? Berserker Predator has got some serious drip going on. The silver embellishments with the clasps, and there's a black wash. Even though these are all single piece rubbery dreads, it looks like there's some actual hardware on top of them. They're all individual little pieces, so you can move them around. If you want to bring the dreads around the front, you can do that, but they naturally just want to fall behind him, so I'm not going to try and fight them. 15-year-old rubber, it could degrade at any time. I'm hoping it doesn't, though. From every angle, there's something to look at with this sculpt. The sunken-in sections, the sinewy flesh. It might not be 100% accurate. It's been years since I've seen that movie. But does it resemble Berserker Predator? If you ask me if this looks like him, yeah, I reckon it does. Well, shit. Now I'm not sure. I was 100% certain on the biomask, but the screaming mandibles, how far the teeth extend at the front, all of this inner mouth detail, the little fangs inside there, I'm going to need to rely on your... What do you think? Screaming mandibles without the biomask, or should I reinstall the helmet when I pop this guy on display? We need to discuss the pleather. If you're planning on picking up these Preds, you're going to have to do some restoration work, let's call it. All of these straps, these bits down the front for his skirt, the skirt panel at the back, this strap, on the gauntlet, down here for the leg armor, I needed to replace every single piece of pleather with genuine sheepskin leather. I went to a leather shop, it cost me $10 to get a bag of leather. I measured everything, I cut it with an X-Acto knife, I glued everything in place. Now this guy is looking fresh as. Like, he's brand new, essentially. And all of this stuff is going to stand the test of time because it's the real deal. It's actual leather versus the fake stuff that Hot Toys went with. So try and ignore the look of the straps and the leather pieces, because that's not how he looks out of the box. It's close, the shape and size of them. I tried to get as close as possible, but the pleather, it will be deteriorating if you cop this guy nowadays. I also grabbed a sponge and I just speckled some brown paint on the surface for some subtle weathering. The armor plating is free floating, you can move it around and adjust it, and I've already installed the plasma caster. You can rotate it at base where it plugs into the armor, and you can hinge it up and down, but not much. It's the red. All of the red on the head sculpt, the dreads on the body. Look at the red spots on his pecs, on the side of his body, coming down here on his waist, on the arms, for the spiky reptilian flesh around the back here. That looks like a crocodile with that sculpted detail. This piece truly is a feast for the eyes. And then the armor plating with all the mottled metal texture, and the dry brushing, and the washes. I can't get enough of how cool this guy looks. Check this out. Easter egg. You can open up the gauntlet. It's fully painted. All of this detail is properly painted inside of it. I didn't even know that this opened. And you can adjust the gauntlet, so in poses, if you find the wrist peg is showing, you can bring it down to completely hide it. On the other side, there's a slot at the front so we can install the blades. Let's do that. The smallest of the three blades is the most difficult one to install because it's slick. It's slippery die-cast metal. There's nothing to push against as you're installing it. So, no, I don't have it seated all the way into the gauntlet because I just simply can't do it. Removing it is a lot easier than installing it. So, for my Berserker Pred, I'm either going to opt for this one, the medium-length blade, or just go all out and install this freaking ginormous one. Again, weigh in the comments. Which size of blade do you prefer for Berserker Pred? Seriously, it's quite sizable. It doesn't make sense. Where would it go inside the gauntlet? It could fold up, I guess. I can suspend my disbelief and believe that that would fit inside the gauntlet. His skirt piece, the front, sides, and this back pouch, that's all sculpted plastic, painted in the same way as the armor pieces. But I needed to replace the front panels. They were pleather originally, and this back skirt piece. It's now genuine leather, and I made sure to grab a piece that had the smallest grain to it possible so it looks properly in scale for 1/6. Then the legs. They've continued the sculpt work for the knee underneath this top piece. So when you bend the leg, it doesn't look all gappy and ugly. It's still not pretty. There's a visible knee joint right up front, but it's not the ugliest visible joint I've ever seen from them. This is close to it. The slit sculpt work for visible joints is never appealing to look at. If you bend Predator's elbows, then you won't see that joint, so that's likely what I'm going to do for this Pred. Ideally, everything would be seamless, but then again, you would be too scared to pose him, or I would be, for fear of cracking the seamless material. So it's a catch-22. They've gone jointed, so you can pose him, but now aesthetically speaking, it's not perfect. These armor plates are glued in place. I replaced the straps, of course, with real leather. Then we've got the single-piece sculpts for the boots. Not traditional visible Predator feet, but the look of them is still there. We've got front spiky nails, and they've even sculpted the detail work on the nails, which doesn't make a ton of sense given their boots. I'll allow it. Nails on the inside and an extra claw at the back. Is there sculpt work on the underside? Yep, absolutely. Before we can move on, let's ditch the blade for the gauntlet and switch out the mandibles for the regular ones. Then we can reinstall the biomask. The option to go one side roaring and the other not is there if you want it. I would suggest keeping them matching. It just makes more sense to me. The cable that's coming out of the biomask is a proper power cable. It connects to his back because there's a little battery compartment, a switch right there, it plugs in at the top. Like I said in the accessory segment, the electronics for all three of my Preds, given it's been 15 years, not working. That's not to say I didn't try. I was so hoping the electronics were going to work. I popped a fresh battery in there, I flicked the switch, and no joy. The wires or whatever, after 15 years, they've just degraded, so no electronics on my Preds. Falconer's turn. Starting off with his head sculpt, there's a real angular look to the biomask, and no, you cannot remove it. But you can still see the quills on the outside there, and a crazy tiger stripe look to the dreads. They're rubber just like what we saw in Berserker, and so far so good, no signs of degradation. The glossy bubble lenses on the biomask, they're a nice touch, and this top part sort of reminds me of the Jungle Hunter, but nothing else does, especially how sharp the front piece is. There's some subtle silver chipping just on the high spots, but they haven't gone crazy with it. So difficult replacing all of these straps with real leather on Falconer, because they're actually functional. Normally, armor plates are glued in place and the straps are just there for aesthetics. Not for Falconer. These are actually doing all of the heavy lifting, keeping everything on the body and in position. So I had to go with a bit of a thicker real leather for these straps. I had plenty of offcuts and samples in the bag I got from the leather shop, and I was able to find something that worked for this. They're darker than the original straps. I don't mind that look. Different sculpt work for the armor plating versus Berserker, and this shoulder pad, how it's got these multiple plates over the top, then another piece that comes down over the shoulder. I really like that. The only thing I'm not a fan of is Because there's no strap or anything connecting this shoulder pad underneath the armpit, now we've got a visible cut right up front. And I've just now noticed, in the spirit of trying to hide joints, from a 3/4 turn, that arm joint, the cut at the front, isn't visible. The sculpted reptilian flesh continues from the chest onto the arms, so you can hide it, and you can hide the elbow joints if you bend them. That stepped, layered look also continues on this side, but there's just more armor over here. And around the back, all of this stuff, the greebly work. And yes, there's meant to be electronics. I tried it, it's simply not working. Now, up top for that port, you can cover it with this. It's keyed, so it only goes in one way, but I'm not brave enough to do that because I know full well that once I plug that in there, I'm not going to be able to remove it. Speaking of plugging something in there, the drone is meant to, the connector is meant to go in all the way. I don't want to force it. It's 15-year-old clear plastic. With the drone connected to Falconer Predator's shoulder, it sits up too high. Even if this was pushed in all the way, it would still be too high, in my opinion. So I don't think I'm going to rock him with that. The sculpted skirt piece has some pleather bits, or they were pleather, now they're real leather attached underneath it. This back one, then another piece over the top of that. To disassemble all of this, I would suggest heating it up first, then you can pry the armor plates off. So I had a choice. I could either glue this armor plate down and get the straps to sit taut against the leg, which looks better, visually speaking, but then when you try and move the leg, a lot of pressure was being put on these straps. So instead, I left it loose. Now I can move the leg without destroying those real leather straps. The armor plate on the other side, it's not an issue with this one because, as you can see, no straps. I'm 99% sure all of the Super Predators have the exact same feet. They're painted differently. We've got gunmetal or a really dark charcoal color, then some lighter dry brushing over the top of that. They've used the darker color as the base. Nail on the inside, claw around the back, and some sculpted detail underneath his feet. Tracker is, just looking at him, my second favorite in this set. Berserker is number one. Berserker has to be number one. Then it's Tracker, then it's Falconer. It's not just because of the tusks and the bulky feel of him, it's everything combined. Yes, it's the tusk. It's the look of the biomask with these sunken in crevices and the battle damage on one side. Then the plasma caster with this triangular look to it, and the green patina wash on the armor, plus this. It took me so long to recreate the look of the original leather cummerbund in genuine leather. This is all my handiwork. It might not be perfect. It might not look great to you, but I'm so proud that I was able to get this to look close to the original. All of the crisscrossing straps and the ties, these bits, I did all of it. It took me a full day of work, but I mean, I reckon it paid off. Just on the head sculpt again, the quills. He's got more quills than the other two. I wish we saw all three Preds unmasked, because that would have translated to unmasked Predators in 1/6 scale. Having the biomasks fused to the sculpt, it's not the end of the world, but it takes a certain cool factor out of 1/6 scale Preds, because being able to remove the biomasks and showcase all of that detail underneath, that's part of why we love them. Tracker's dreads are black, but then we've got green little buckles or beads on them. Some have detail work on the ends, but not others, so they're all individually detailed dreads. And just like Berserker, if you want to bring them around the front, that is an option. The armor plating, it extends over both shoulders with this guy, and we've still got electronics and the battery compartment. This, having all three with their tracker lights on for their biomasks, would have been sensational, but it's just not meant to be. Maybe I'll paint them and then simulate that look instead. Is it just me, or does Tracker look bulkier? It's probably not the case. Likely this is the same body as the other two, but the armor plating, how it sits over the shoulders, then these straps letting the pecs breathe, showing off all of this sculpt work that was otherwise hidden with the other two. That's what makes him feel larger, I guess. These teeth, they're sculpted plastic hanging down the front, but they're PVC, so if you catch them while posing, they're not going to tear off or get damaged. I know I didn't show this with Falconer, that was an intentional choice because his gauntlet on the right side is identical to Berserker's, so the blades, they work in the exact same way, but for Tracker, we've got a different sculpt for the right side gauntlet, and I'm pleased to report that the blades, they slide all the way in there. No gap, unlike what we saw with the other two. I'm leaning towards the mid-length blade for Tracker, the long one for Berserker, and no blade for Falconer. So, unique sculpt for this gauntlet, this one, all of this, Plasma Caster, the Biomask. There is a lot less reuse with Tracker versus Falconer and Berserker. They share a lot of pieces. The sculpted bottom part for the crotch armor, then we've got these are sculpted. Luckily, I didn't have to replace any of this with leather. I think I got the color match pretty close between the sculpted straps and these pieces versus my real leather, but it's not 100% perfect. His legs, all of this green. It's not a color that I normally associate with the outside of predators because when they get cut, their blood is green, so why would the outside of them be green? I guess for Tracker, it's so he's more stealthy. So he blends in with the green environments that he's probably hunting in. He's got the invisibility tech, but maybe he doesn't want to rely on that. That's not the type of hunter he is. Now I'm just guessing. These sculpted pads on the inside of his legs have some detail on them. Reptilian flesh all the way down underneath the armor plating. And an asymmetrical design. Different sculpt work for this knee versus the other. Same thing for the calf armor. But the boots, they are reused from the other two Preds. They're done in green with that metallic sheen. And they've still got the same limited articulation. You'll see what I mean when we get to the articulation segment. Oh, and sculpted detail on the underside? Yep. For a quick side-by-side comparison, that is quite the shot right there. Falconer on the left, Berserker in the middle, Tracker on the right. Why did it take me so long to get these? They're not even that expensive, because they always have pleather issues. I think the real reason why I held off is because I didn't feel like I had the requisite skills required to replace all of the pleather with leather, but I've learned a lot over the years, I've customized stuff, and now I feel like I was able to restore these figures back to their original glory, and now fully assembled, this is a set to be reckoned with. Do I wish I'd picked them up sooner? Hell yes. Will I be displaying them all together in the collection? 100%. If I had to pick my favorite, like I said earlier, Berserker in the middle, number one for me, then Tracker, then Falconer. Then next to my stand-in Jungle Hunter, this is technically classic Predator from this very movie, from Predators. So they're from the same line, they're meant to be displayed next to each other. Berserker's head is smaller, which is not supposed to be the case, it's meant to be bigger, but again, like I said earlier, I'm fine with it. Yet his body, he's taller at the shoulders only by a bit, but it makes a difference. He's broader at the shoulders as well. Then he narrows in at the waist, and he's more muscular. That gives him a badass vibe versus Jungle Hunter. He looks more classic. Still got room in my collection for both of these. Don't worry, Jungle Hunter / Classic isn't going anywhere. Going over articulation, while their bodies are very similar, if not identical, their armor plating is quite different. So for the sake of completeness, let's go over all three Preds. Starting off with Berserker and his head sculpt, ball joint at the base of the neck, double ball peg underneath the head, looking forward to there, more restricted by the neck seal, I think. Looking up to there, further than forward at least, but it gets gappy, you're going to have to adjust for that. Swivel, and plenty of pivot side to side. Hinge at the shoulder, the armor plating moves along with the arm to give you a little bit of range. Don't want to put too much pressure on those straps though. Going forward and out at the same time to there. There's not really a butterfly at the shoulder, but the arms do hinge up and down. Swivel at the elbow joint, visible single bend on ratchets, getting you to, let's call it 90. Then for the wrist peg, it's a hinge and swivel. Single piece, solid plastic sculpt for the torso. There's a ball joint at the waist, but Crunching forward is restricted to there, just given the nature of everything with the skirt, the armor plating, and whatnot. Going back to there, swivel, and a touch of pivot side to side. Legs will go forward to there. They surprisingly move more freely than everything else we've tried so far. Going out to there, swivel at the hip joint. Single bend at the knee on intense, heavy ratchets going to 90. Single piece sculpt for the boot. There's a ball joint at the end of the calf that connects to the inside of the boot. Seeing as though it's so tight around the calf, though, you can't access forward and back or pivot. All you really get out of it is swivel. Moving on to Falconer, starting off with his head sculpt. Same setup as Berserker. Ball joint at the base of it, double ball peg underneath the head, looking forward. Looking up to there, it moves surprisingly freely. We get swivel and tons of pivot side to side. This is going to restrict the left arm. The right one can move more freely. Going up to there, forward and back. No butterfly, but you do get a hinge up and down. Swivel at the elbow, single bend on ratchets going past 90. Then for the wrist peg, it's a hinge and swivel. Will we get more range at the torso than Berserker? No, not really. Going back? Nah. Swivel though, and some pivot. Now this right here is the danger zone. For the left leg, this armor plate connects to the thigh piece, but also the belt, so it doesn't really want to move. You know what I'm trying to say. Going forward to there before you start to stress out these straps. The other leg though goes all the way forward. Going out to there, swivel at the hip joint. Single bend at the knee, it will get you to 90, but that joint is so tight, I just don't want to force it. And then for the feet, same story as Berserker. There is a ball joint inside of them, but they don't flare out enough at the top, and they're not soft enough to give you a ton of range. Maybe some forward and back, a little pivot, but it's mostly swivel. And finally, we've got Tracker, starting off with his head sculpt. Same setup as the other two. Yeah, you guessed it. Ball joint at the base of the neck, double ball peg under the head. Looking forward to there, looking back to there only, the most restricted of the three preds. Swivel and some pivot side to side. Arms go up to there as the chest armor moves a bit out of the way. Forward and back, no real butterfly, but a hinge up and down. Swivel at the elbow joint, single bend on ratchets getting you to 90, then for the wrist peg, ratcheted hinge and swivel. Torso, these straps, this cummerbund, yeah, we're not gonna get much out of it. Crunching forward, doesn't want to do it like I'm fighting it, maybe just a bit. Going back, yeah, nah. Swivel and pivot, more than forward and back at least. Legs move freely forward to there, going out to there, swivel at the hips. Single bend on ratchets at the knee, getting you to 90. Single piece boots, ball joint inside of them, a teeny bit of forward and back and pivot, it's all swivel. Wrapping up on Hot Toys, Predators, Super Predators. Such a ridiculous name for Predators because they're already supposed to be the peak, the pinnacle of hunters. But then there's Super Predators. They're even more badass. They're even cooler. They've got better tech. They're specialized. You've got Tracker and Falconer and Berserker, who's this large rage monster with all of the red on him. But I ate all of that up in the movie. I actually really like the film Predators. It's not the best in the franchise, but it is certainly not the worst. These figures, they're great. They're not the best there is. They're not the best Hot Toys Preds. I'd say that Elder is better than any of these, but once you have the team on the shelf, there is so much presence to be found. And when it comes to accessories, there's a lot to play with and work with, and there's visible joints so you can actually pose them without worrying about creasing seamless bodies, so plenty to love about these pieces. However, the one big elephant in the room is the pleather. If you are not confident in going to a leather shop like I did and buying some offcuts and using the original pieces as stencils and cutting new straps and gluing them in place, then don't get these. The pleather flaking is so bad, these pieces were undisplayable out of the box because the armor plates actually rely on the straps to hold them in position. And pleather, as we all know, it doesn't hold anything in position. It can't even hold itself in position. It disintegrates, it crumbles like dust into nothingness. It evaporates. So I had to do some restoration work, and now that it's done, they're looking factory fresh. If you are confident in doing it, trust me, it is not that hard. These are a must-have. They're not pricey. They're easy to find because people are selling them so cheap because of the pleather issues. If you're willing to put in the work, you will be rewarded with some of the coolest and most unique looking predators that Hot Toys have ever given us. Are they bang on accurate to what we saw on screen? No. Do they resemble the predators on screen in the movie? Yes. And that, for me, given how much detail has been put into the sculpt and paint on these, was more than enough to warrant picking them up. So at the end of this, yes, I recommend them as long as you're willing to save them from the junk pile by replacing that pleather with genuine leather. If you're heading down to the description, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button if you like the sound of seeing your name in the end credits of my reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video.